first call you make is actually Keystone. So you actually hit Keystone and says, okay, my name is Giuseppe, here's my password, please give me your service catalog, and Keystone gives you all the endpoint APIs. Apologies. So Keystone is really, apologies, is really key into an OpenStack infrastructure, and this is the one you really need to protect against any password attack. So what's inside the OpenStack identity management? We have three types, well actually four now, type of objects. The first one, of course, are users and represent both human users and non-human users. For example, the other services are registered into Keystone as well. So, for example, Neutron as an associated user inside of OpenStack. Why I'm telling you this? Because you have to, when you actually deploy on OpenStack, you have to be careful on giving meaningful and strong enough passwords to the user, to the service users. Because if you concentrate on strength the password of a user, the human users, then I can attack you on the service users, for example. The other object is actually tenants. So the tenants are actually an administrative representation of users, organization of a group. So really depends on your environment, on how you want to roll out OpenStack. Tenants can vary, can have different meanings on your infrastructure. What I usually do is that I create tenants for projects if you are an enterprise. So, for example, if you have marketing projects, then I create a tenant for each marketing project. This can be a way of organizing it. Tenants can also be, you can organize as you like. Tenant can also represent an organization. So if it's you have HR, then you have a tenant with HR. Or can be an end customer, a single person. Really depends on how you want. So, for example, in one of my roles when I go and consult over a corporation or over a telco is actually designing tenants, the user, and the roles. And the roles are the operation that a user is permitted to perform on a given tenant. Again, there is a service users are allowed to do admin privilege. So take care. OpenStack by default put all the objects inside a SQL backend. If you are familiar with Python, it is actually using and leveraging the SQL Alchemy database framework. So you can potentially plug in every SQL backend you want. The most used one are MySQL, probably with Galera, and Postgres, but potentially you can have Oracle and DB2 as well. While most of the information is stored in SQL, you can actually use external authentication method also for using SAML v2 and LDAP. And you can also create your own custom plugins to address your own needs. It's very easy to do. So, as I said, be very careful with Keystone because guessing a password is actually very important and very dangerous. As you can see from the screenshot here, with a simple curl and guessing password, you can do it very easy. You can have all the endpoints of your infrastructure, which means that I have all control and all information I want to attack your infrastructure. So one other thing I usually say when I go to customer, security must be simple and transparent. Otherwise, the end user will try to circumvent it. So if you make a process really hard and security really hard, it's not any good because the user try to. At the end of the day, they have to work. So they have to be in a position they can be comfortable enough to access their information, but still having security in mind. So having too low security is bad, having too much security is bad as well. What you need to have, especially if your infrastructure is exposed, a strong authentication for the users, both for the infrastructure and the application. And if you can, you have to geo-track it. So if you're actually doing the application yourself, try to, it's very simple, few lines of code, try to understand where the user coming from. Say you're in Europe and your workforce is located in Europe. Why should someone be connecting from South Africa or from China, unless there is some specific stuff? So banning some specific geo is very important when you expose an application on the web. And one thing that people now with container and with all the new continuous integration, continuous delivery platform forget is about patches. This is very old practice, but still you have to keep it in mind. I mean, adopting agile methodology doesn't exempt you to patch your application and patch your infrastructure and operating system. And then one other mistake I usually see is having an application secure from inside. I know it's difficult because most of the people have deadline, but still you have to take care of input validation, escaping of the values you get. You know, all this best security practices in programming has to be done also when exposing, well, even more when you are exposing an application to the internet. So most of the thing is that you need a certain type of control. You need something that is able to control both the cloud orchestration and the hosted apps in private, public, and hybrid clouds. As Guard, for example, we developed SecurePass that is able to control and act as a central point of authentication and distribution of users across cloud orchestration software, including OpenStack, but also VMware vCloud, for example, and Xen servers as well, OpenNebula, and any hosted apps. As a matter of fact, is upstream in Ubuntu, in Debian, in CentOS, and in SUSE as well. This is the free version of OpenStack. You are free to join. This is the URL. Bear in mind of this slide for the next one. Have a look. It's free, and you can actually configure your Linux system and deploy Linux system with a central authentication in a matter of seconds. Now, there's a challenge for you. So here's the challenge you have to put on the tweet. So the question is, what is the website of a free project to address identity management across hybrid cloud? Answer now on Twitter using the hashtag Helion Web Series, and Gaetan will try to make you win an HP Helion Cloud box.
Hi guys, that's correct. So we'll be looking at Twitter, and we'll find the right answers, and we'll be choosing two. So good luck.
So okay, so as I said, it's a process. Security is a real mess, and the other one is API security. So more and more we're seeing the adoption of the mobile apps. Most of the apps, as you can understand, is using APIs, and also the adoption of microservices is really ramping up. So all the applications are now split in microservices. Just to give you a small example, is it going in practice? Yes. One of friends of mine running probably the largest online travel booking and travel agency, and they are having millions of hits per second, and they decided to embrace microservices to run their own infrastructure. However, all the APIs are exposed in a way or the other. So what you need to do is actually keep an eye on API security, both on OpenStack and in your cloud applications. So firewall here are basically useless because each API written usually on top of HTTPS, and unless you do injections of for certificates inside of the firewall, you are not able to inspect what's going inside. And at the end of the day, you are ending up logging some web calls, and you don't know what's actually vectoring inside. There are some APIs best practice that I usually tell to my customers. Seems a bit dummy, but still there are some people that are using carrying username, passwords, session token, and API keys into the URL. Please never do it, especially because some clients can sit behind a proxy, and you don't know if the proxy is actually sniffing what's going on. Especially in enterprise, it's really common scenario to have a fake certification authority being injected into the client, so they actually can inspect, the transparent proxy can inspect what's going out, and this can easy peasy getting your username, password, session token, and I can enter easily into your application. One other thing that really nobody does is allowing only specific HTTP method. So if you only allow get and put, why should you allow options or delete, for example? So be careful on what you actually expose, and try to deny all the specific methods you're not exposing. Of course, also for APIs, it's also valid to validate input. Try to not assume that what's actually coming in is actually true. So don't assume that because it's actually created from your mobile app, that would be the one hitting your API, because I can craft it easily. Also validate in content type, and if you can, try to encrypt the data. So what you actually use, what is actually doable, is XML or JSON as a payload. Try as much as you can to encrypt the payload, or to encrypt specific fields, especially those ones with more sensitive data, such as credit cards or sensitive personal information, medical records, etc. APIs are not different from a microservice. At the end of the day, it's a RESTful interface. You actually post an information and you get a JSON output. Okay, very easy. If you are geek enough, you can use the curl command to perform all the operations. Of course, there are command line tools to do that, but it's doable. But again, these are the exposed ones, so you have to be very careful, especially as again when interprocess communication is done. If you, for example, if you want to deploy a VM, you actually, as a user, first hit Keystone, then you hit Nova. But Nova, behind the scenes, is actually doing contacting Keystone, then you're actually contacting Glance and the block device to allocate your block storage. So as you can see, there is a fully meshed REST communication across all the endpoints. As a matter of fact, I usually name it as a shared morphing architecture, because each endpoint can be a different project or a different product on its own. But again, if you see that from the user standpoint here in the slide, you actually see that your user is going to end up connecting each one of the endpoint. So you have to make sure that your infrastructure either is well protected or is always up to date with the latest patch and latest projects and all the security information out there, because actually this is very sensitive. Okay, though OpenStack is their foundation is very very focused on security, so there is a security practice. People are watching IRC every day to see if there is any problem that arise. Yet you are responsible to applying the patch. So the patch will be released as soon as possible, but yet you are responsible for applying it. So how does it work? Again, you hit via curl, you get the token, and then with the token you go and consume other services. So how you can get the OpenStack APIs a bit more secure? First one, try to isolate the API endpoint. The API endpoint, apologies, should be deployed if you can, if you are large enough on an host on its own. There is an inside concept of public endpoint and internal endpoint instead of Keystone. So make sure that the external endpoint is different from the internal one. As long as you can, try to apply defense in depth. Try to configure the host, so the bare metal, in a secure way. Try to use SE Linux on Paramore, for example, host-based firewall, and a strong network security policy. Just to give you an overview, as a matter of fact, HP Helion is running H Linux, so it's already hardened hosts, and you don't have to think about it. So it could be easy to use HP Helion as a way of managing OpenStack, because it's actually secure by itself. So, but other vendors actually don't use this policy. Most of the vendors are, well, a couple of the vendors out there are actually Linux distribution vendors. So when you install the full distribution on your host, is actually have a full installation. So you have to take care of harden it. If you can, though firewall are not more effective, still IDS and IPS are effective anyway. So what you actually need to do on the edge is not putting the firewall, but an inline IPS could help. There are also some methodology of creating and segregating APIs. So if you're actually creating your own APIs, please take in consideration three main points. So these are the ones that actually, when we created SecurePass, we took into consideration. First, in functionality. So if if you're releasing an API ID or username and password, please try to segregate on read-write and read-only functionalities, because this can save you a lot. So one thing is actually reading your infrastructure, and one is actually modifying your infrastructure or your application. That varies. In network, also what we did is that I give an application ID, which is our API key, can be limited to a given IPv4 and IPv6 subnet. So if you have an application ID that is able to write, why should I enable it globally? So I can say read only is for everybody, and read write is only for a given set of IP. And then if you plan to have an application that is multi-tenant, please make sure that it's actually binded to a specific real or domain, so that each of your customers is really segregated from the other. Last thing that I'm actually advocating is continuous security. So this addresses a bit of application development. So, as I mentioned earlier, most of the people are now embracing continuous integration and continuous delivery, but still, usually during this process, is only carried out functional tests. What I'm actually advocating, and is actually working well in most of my customers, is actually adding also some security tests inside of the process of releasing an application. So what we do is that through continuous integration tool, we build the application, we run the functional tests, we run then some static security tests. We create a template, be either a virtual machine inside of OpenStack or a Docker container. Excuse me for a second. Then we deploy the template and we run an automated vulnerability assessment. This doesn't actually prevent you from being attacked, but you actually can address 80 to 90% of the security problems out there. Here are some links that you can follow to have information of static source code analyzers. Of course, it really depends from your language. So I'm a Python developer, and there's not much about it, but there's a lot for Java, for example. One other really good tool is actually a Google tool. It's called Firing Range. It's actually made by a friend of mine. What it does is that runs automated attacks and try to use common attack techniques like XSS or other attacks to try and attack you. So it's very important, for example, if you want to integrate into a continuous security model. Last but not least, some useful links here as well. What I can start thinking about it's the OpenStack security guide here. The other two links are actually the answer to the Twitter challenge we mentioned already, and the other one is Secure Pass. What I can actually suggest, of course, this is a quick webinar. If you can, try to attend a local meetup and join some OpenStack discussion and forum groups out there, so you can actually be informed about security and the security policies. So just to recap, if you need some OpenStack consultant from us or software-defined storage from the guys who actually addressed the largest EMEA telcos and bank infrastructure, give us a call on info@alchemy.solutions. Instead, if you are in need of identity management, secure enterprise Dropbox replacement, and you want some suggestion on pen test and vulnerability assessments, please call us on info@garl.ch. I think that's all, just in time. Let me know if you have some questions on Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Giuseppe. Does anybody have any questions? Like he said, you could just ask him on Twitter, or you could just type them in the chat box. Okay, Giuseppe, I'd like to thank you very much. That was an amazing presentation. And now to the two winners from Giuseppe.
Fernando.
Yes.
Fernando, sorry, Enrico speaking. I see in the chat line that there is a person that probably doesn't have the Twitter account, and maybe he wants to ask a question. I don't know if he's Mr. Alexander Dimitrov. Maybe he can write the question and we can repeat.
Alex, if you know the answer, well, you could just type it in the chat box. You could just aim it, or you could just tell me at Fernando@BeMyApp. You can just type it in the chat. Fernando@BeMyApp.com.
we will be happy to follow up after the webinar to answer the question. Sorry if I interrupted.
No problem. One of the questions I usually have is around, is around whether, again, to deploy OpenStack full in front of a public internet or not. I somehow addressed this question during the presentation, but let's do it this way. If you're a telco, you probably will have to reveal the whole infrastructure to the internet. This is because you never know what type of customers you will have. So if you will have developers probably, or automated infrastructure deployment, probably you will have to have API access anyway. But if you're an enterprise, probably is more than enough to expose a web interface. Could it be, for example, the Horizon web interface and that's it? Or could it be the CSA, for example, the cloud management platform from HP? There is no magic recipe. Again, it really depends on how you want to address your own infrastructure.
Perfect. Okay, with that, Enrico, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, it's okay. I would like to thank you very much, Giuseppe, for leading this webinar. I think that it's very clear the preparation on this topic from Giuseppe. I was wondering, Giuseppe, if you want to share your contacts, point, emails, etc., just in case people may want to connect you and see they may have interest in getting additional support from you.
So, okay, I will, let me put all my contact information into the chat now. You can have @gpaterno as a Twitter. My working email is gpaterno@garle.ch, and my website is www.gpaterno.com.
Correct, guys.
So there's a lot of place you can.
So tomorrow, when I send again an email, I'll be sending out another email, so a recap. I'll be adding Giuseppe's all information in there, so I'll add his email, Twitter, so you guys can have any communication whatsoever. With that, I just want to let you guys know. So as Enrico mentioned, we extended, so we're gonna have webinar 6 and 7, and it's gonna be week after week. So we are gonna officially have. Let me just open up the calendar. We're officially gonna have webinar 6 on November 17th, and webinar 7th on November 24th. So it's a Tuesday and then the following Tuesday. With that, again, I would just want to say a big thank you to HP and Intel. Thank you very much, Giuseppe. And with that, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me. Again, Fernando at BeMyApp. And thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks very much for attending. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.